Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into this, because today we're looking at a truly fascinating, kind of unexpected mashup of two totally different worlds. On one hand, we've got the raw, super gritty physicality of CrossFit, and on the other, the highly tactical, boardroom-ready strategies of Navy SEALs. Now, you might be wondering, what on earth could those two possibly share? Well, as we're about to see, when you really examine these two cultures side by side, they reveal this incredibly powerful, unified theory on self-mastery and radical accountability. So let's kick things off with a pretty heavy question. This actually comes from the social critique of philosopher Ivan Illich. He asks, are we just unfeeling spectators of our own decaying selves? I know, it's a lot to confront, but it challenges us, right? It forces us to look in the mirror and ask if we've just, passively accepted the comforts and, frankly, the numbness of modern life. Basically, have we traded our actual vitality for mere convenience? Sociologists Zygmunt Bauman and David Graeber have this really interesting take on this. They argue that late modern society has essentially pathologized the human experience. Like, we're prescribed a pill for absolutely every ill. And consumerism, well, that's the ultimate pill for unhappiness. The argument here is that we've essentially replaced true visceral meaning and deep human connection with pointless jobs and this endless, illusionary pursuit of just buying more stuff. We're consuming constantly, sure, but we're completely starving for meaning. So how do we actually break out of this cycle? Part 1. The language of pain. Step inside a typical CrossFit environment. They call it the box. It is primal, it's bare, honestly almost looks a little post-apocalyptic. Notice what's missing here. There are no mirrors, no flat-screen TVs, absolutely no luxury spa amenities. It is deliberately designed for a shared, secular asceticism. It's a space where you literally cannot hide behind the usual distractions you'd find at a commercial gym. Inside that box, the visceral reality of this culture becomes super clear very quickly. Pain is quite literally the language they speak. And anthropological research actually highlights this. These intense physical exertions, these kind of daily rituals of dying, they aren't framed as a punishment at all. Instead, they're viewed as a profound privilege. It's this unique opportunity to push way past artificial boundaries and discover your true physical and mental limits. The pain is the teacher here. Now, to really get what's happening here, researchers point to a deep philosophical concept known as the care of the self. They use thinkers like Nietzsche and Foucault to explain it. Nietzsche, for instance, warned of the complacent letzte Mensch, or the last man, someone who only desires comfort and warmth. The antidote to that is striving for the Übermensch, or overhuman. Building on that idea, Foucault argued that we shouldn't view ourself as this fixed, static thing you're just born with. Actually, it's a continuous procedural project. You have to constantly take inventory and shape your actions. It's exactly like an artist working on a painting that just never, ever dries. But, let's bring these high-minded philosophies down to gritty reality. You will often see this printed right on the athlete's shirts. Train hard, look good, get laid, feel better. It might seem a little blunt, sure, but it perfectly summarizes the joyful, physical affirmation of this continuously developing self. It isn't about just being miserable for the sake of it. It's about building a better, highly functional human being through voluntary struggle and unapologetic effort. Part 2. The freedom of control. Think about the massive whiteboard you see in these spaces. This board tracks every single repetition, every pound lifted, every completion time for absolutely everyone in the room. It essentially forces practitioners to face the raw, unvarnished truth of their performance. You just can't make excuses to a whiteboard. It strips away your ego completely and holds you entirely 100% accountable to your own reality. And honestly, this is exactly where our two worlds beautifully collide. The physical accountability of that whiteboard perfectly mirrors the mental accountability found in a corporate debrief. In the professional world, especially if you look at the frameworks developed by Navy SEALs, a post-action debrief operates exactly like that whiteboard. Its entire purpose is to collate timely, honest feedback and completely strip away ego, so a team can clearly see what went wrong, what went right, and exactly how to improve next time. Part 3. Laws of extreme ownership. So what exactly does extreme ownership actually mean? Well, it's defined as taking full, absolute responsibility for your actions, your decisions, and your outcomes. It means you focus inward before you ever look outward. True accountability isn't about pointing fingers at your team or blaming your circumstances when things go south. It actually requires the leader to completely disarm everyone's defenses by stepping up, admitting their own role in the failure, and then setting the new standard. This whole mindset is anchored by what are called the four laws of combat. First up is cover and move, which is really all about building strong relationships, trust, and teamwork. Second, keep it simple. Ensure your communication is so clear and concise that absolutely everyone understands the mission. Third, prioritize and execute. This one requires supreme emotional control, putting your panic totally aside to tackle the biggest issue first. And finally, fourth, decentralized command, empowering your team to step up and lead on their own simply because you can't be everywhere at once. Part 4, leading by looking inward. Now, if you're thinking about how to actually implement this, the math of culture change is surprisingly accessible. Even if just 20% of your team embraces ownership, you can witness a massive shift in the organizational culture. You don't need everyone on board on day one to make a difference. By identifying a few dedicated folks and just leading by example, you create an environment where accountability becomes this highly contagious intrinsic cultural trait. This is essentially taking that SEAL concept of cover and move and applying it to everyday life. On one hand, you have that communal whiteboard of accountability. On the other, you have postpartum moms working out together, literally using their babies as weights in a deeply supportive environment. It just proves that extreme accountability and really confronting your limits isn't some isolating, lonely experience. It is deeply communal. Overcoming hardship together is exactly what builds the tribe. Part 5. Mastering your own reality. The real core message here is that true leadership is a delicate balancing act. Admitting your role in challenges actually empowers your team to follow suit. Whether you are sweating through a grueling workout of the day or navigating a massive corporate crisis, embracing voluntary hardship and taking the blame without a shred of ego are simply the absolute ultimate tools for personal and collective growth. Ultimately, this is all about a very visceral pursuit to simply be more human. This constant, sometimes painful, yet entirely beautiful quest to push past our perceived boundaries, that is what allows us to escape the liquid modernity of endless consumerism. It's exactly how we wake up from being those unfeeling spectators of our own lives and truly, finally feel alive. Okay, let's look at this staggering number, 19,606. According to fitness metrics cited in our sources, this actually represents the average number of days an adult might have left to live once they start calculating their lifespan. 19,606 days. That is your countdown. Which leaves us with one incredibly vital question to ponder. You have 19,606 days to live. Who is going to own them? Are you going to let comfort, consumerism, and complacency just dictate your precious time? Or will you take radical, extreme ownership of your body, your mind, and your life? The whiteboard is blank. The choice is yours. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.